I said, Mr. Austin, I want you to take a look at something. He looked at it, he said, Mike, come in. Folks, I want you to really, really pay attention to this gentleman, because when he talks, it's like Wall Street with a heart. Okay? It's like Wall Street with a heart. He knows how the game is played, but he cares, and he's going to tell you the truth. My good friend and business partner, Mr. Alan Austin. Good evening, Mr. Austin.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me, Mr. Dalco?
I hear you.
Hello, Karatbars Nation. I just got to say the one thing Dr. China said about your phone book. That just had me, that had me rolling. It literally looked like a phone book when you held it up. That had me rolling. Hello, Karatbars Nation. Glad to see and hear all of you. Really excited and happy to be a part of the call tonight. I'm particularly happy to be a part of this amazing 90 Days to Freedom movement. There's a phrase that members of our team, Mr. Dalco, are beginning to associate with me. And that phrase is, let the numbers do the talking. And I say that a lot. I say that all the time, actually, when people are asking me about why I would do something like Karatbars. Many of the people on this call come from a corporate background, and as such, it's easy for you to understand that successful businesses don't make decisions about assets to acquire or expenses to incur without doing some level of analysis on the numbers to ensure that there is a present or future value for the company, whether it's the acquisition of an asset or incurring an expense. Even the expense has to translate into something that becomes valuable either presently or in the future. And so when people ask me, Alan, why would you do something like Karatbars? I laugh sometimes because even in the way they phrase the question, I hear the doubt in their voice. And I know where they're coming from and what they mean when they ask that question, right? I mean, they're thinking about somebody like me with my professional background, and the things that I've done from a corporate America perspective. Why would someone like me be interested in Karatbars, as if Karatbars is only meant for people that are broke and ignorant? And obviously that's not the case, right? I mean, they don't realize that Karatbars is meant for everyone, 98.6 and breathing, like Mr. Ty Best said. But seriously, the answer is really simple to me. I look at the numbers. Look, as a business operations and finance professional, I tell people that there are 3, maybe 4 things that are mandatory when it comes to laying the foundation for building wealth. Number 1, you've got to save your money in an asset that appreciates at a rate that outpaces inflation. Okay, that's number 1. Nothing beats gold.
Mr. Austin, say that one more time, a little slower. Say it again, because I'm going to tear this notebook up. Say it one more time.
Number 1, everybody knows that saving is important. So I'm just going to assume that everyone knows that for you to lay the foundation to build wealth, saving is important, right? But you've got to save your money in an asset class that appreciates at a rate that outpaces inflation. Nothing beats gold, okay? If you look at the choices that you have for investing for the future, when you overlay the requirement to outpace inflation consistently, your choices become very, very small, right? And I'm telling you that nothing historically has outpaced gold in terms of maintaining its purchasing power. So that's number 1. Number 2, you've got to find a way to reduce your expenses and reinvest the savings in an asset class that appreciates at a rate that outpaces inflation. Okay? If you're a W-2 income earner, a home-based business is the best way to reduce expenses, because everyone knows that the tax man, right? Taxes is your greatest expense if you have a job, right? Uncle Sam sees 30 to 35% of your money before it hits your bank account. And the best way for you to recoup some of what you lose from a tax perspective is to have a home-based business. That's number 2. Number 3, you've got to find a way to leverage the efforts of others and take advantage of compound interest. Find a way to leverage the efforts of others and take advantage of compound interest. Okay? So if you look at those 3 things that are a requirement, that are a prerequisite, that are mandatory from a foundational perspective to propel you to a place where wealth creation is a reality, Karatbars meets all of those criteria. And here's the thing, there is no downside risk with Karatbars ever. There's never a losing transaction with Karatbars. You can't say that about any other investment vehicle. There's never a losing transaction with Karatbars. And so, you know, to the point that I made earlier, the decision for me about joining Karatbars is a mathematical one. I just look at the numbers. If my goal long-term is to build wealth, and the three things that I told you are the foundational things required to build wealth, my job then becomes identifying the asset or the business that meets those criteria. Karatbars is that thing, right? And if you stick with Karatbars long enough, you'll get to a point where you achieve the ultimate goal, and that is what you have, Mr. Dalco, time freedom. Back to you, sir.
Okay, so you're gonna just drop the mic like that, right? Mr. Austin, one more stat, if you could give to the family. I like what you said, Karatbars Nation. One more stat. You talked about with us on the power call, if you were comparing savings instruments, how gold compared to stock market funds, mutual funds, CDs, IRAs, all that. Give that stat for me real quick.
Sure. So, you know, and what I made mention to on the call was the fact that people don't do the due diligence required to investigate whether or not a financial decision is the right one for them. And I likened due diligence to what companies do when they make a hiring selection, right? Companies are not only doing what they, you know, panel interviews and behavioral style interviews to determine whether or not the candidate's past success would make them a fit for the job, but they're running background check, credit check, fingerprints. You know, they're doing all these things to determine whether or not the person that they're interviewing would be the right person for the job. And what I said on the call was, unfortunately, people, when making financial decisions, don't necessarily do the due diligence. They don't interview the asset classes that they are considering so that they make an informed decision. We know that because countless people around the country continue to put their money in a 401k when the stock market has a history of robbing you of your wealth. Crash after crash, embezzlement, there is rampant embezzlement, there's manipulation of the stock market in different asset classes, and yet people are still blindly sort of giving their money into you know, the stock market and their 401k with their fingers crossed, hoping that at some point in the future, they'll have enough to retire on, right? And so when you interview the stock market to determine whether or not the stock market is the right opportunity for you to invest your life savings, when you think about that, it's the wrong choice. The track record of the stock market is horrendous. There's been countless crashes since the beginning of the stock market. Obviously, everyone knows that paper assets decline year over year because we print more. There is well-known rampant embezzlement by the major banks on the stock market. There is well-known rampant stock price and asset class price manipulation on the stock market. So why would I want to voluntarily continue to give my money to that? When you interview gold, the question is simple. Gold, what was your price in 1900 and what's your price now? The answer is simple. Over 4,000% increase. I'm done. If my mode of selecting an asset class is to rely on the numbers, there's no question where I'm going. It's done. It's over with. And the sad thing, unfortunately, is that most financial advisors don't necessarily talk to their clients about this particular asset class because it doesn't make them money. It doesn't make them money. They're more concerned about selling whatever product or service their company has to offer than taking care of the individual and doing what's right by the person. And so I happen to be an anomaly in my field of operations and finance because I'm not necessarily concerned about what I make on a commission perspective. I'm concerned about making sure that I'm taking care of the person, building a relationship so that they can protect their families. That's what drives me.
Wow. And Erica Patmore, I just saw your text. No, he didn't say 400% increase. He said since the early 1900s till now, it's a 4,000%.
4,000. Over 4,000% increase.
And Mr. Austin, if I may, you spoke before about going through the process of due diligence like you would in an interview process. So if you were to ask the stock market some questions and then do the same thing with gold, what would that look like?
Yeah, boy, I tell you. So let me hang. I think I just lost mine. Can you still see me?
Yeah, we see you.
I don't think I can see y'all. I just had a glitch on my camera. Give me 1 second.
Please stand by. Dr. China, what are you getting out of all this?
This is so darn good. Like, I'm taking copious notes over here. Like, I'm typing as fast as I can. This is such a treat right here. I'm so attracted to this type of information. It's literally like a turn on to me to hear it, because that's wisdom. You know, and when you hear that, it does something to your ears.
Yeah, it fires you up.
Yeah, it does, because even if you haven't been educated in this arena, something the gentleman said it before, it's like getting university level information. We are in an academy right now. Please don't minimize this. They have a gentleman like Mr. Austin with his track record and his background, and to give this type of information and to explain it at a level that everybody could understand it. I don't know about you guys, but I'm like, I am just jumping on the inside right now. I'm excited to be connected to this. And just whenever you get everything back, I'm still ready to type. I'm taking notes. So Mr. Austin, ooh.
I think I'm good. I've got you back on. I can see you. Can you see me?
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay, great. So there have been, all right. So Mr. Williams, to your point, if I were interviewing the stock market and, to ask what the stock market's track record has been, and we can go back to the 17 or 1800s, but even if you just start at like 1900, let's start at 1900, right? So if I say stock market, what's been your track record of consistently delivering on your promise to provide individual investors a return consistently such that they have the money that they need when they're ready to retire? What's been your track record? Okay. Well, let me just start with present tense. We know that 85% of the fund managers managing money on the market right now lose. They're not even outpacing inflation. They can't even keep up with the market. 85% of the fund managers on the market right now lose. That means there's only 25% of the fund managers that are potentially keeping up with, at a minimum, inflation. How do you know what those fund managers are and what funds they manage and whether or not your 401k is in it? That's a crapshoot. It's a crapshoot. But let's look at the history of the stock market. All right. If you think about the earlier crashes, like in 1900, there was, I think it was May 17th, 1901. There was a panic in 1901 that lasted 3 years. Okay. October 1907, panic of 1907 that crashed the markets globally that lasted about 2 years. October 24th, 1929, there was a Wall Street crash. We also know that as the Great Depression. The recession of 1937, which lasted 2 years. May 28th of 1962, there was a flash crash in 1962. October 19th, 1987, Black Monday, another market crash. Friday the 13th, October 1989, completely crashed the market for the entire country. October of the 1990s, we know that the entire decade of the 90s, there was this huge recession. What happened in the early 2000s, the tech bubble? What happened in 2008, the housing bubble? We just had another crash in 2010. Last year, I think it was at the beginning of this year or the latter part of last year, we saw the market crash with the biggest dip in history. Okay, so when you look at the trend of the market and you're trying to determine whether or not your life savings is safe in any asset class in the market, the numbers are telling you you need to put your Nikes on and run. You need to run away from it. You need to run away from it. Because here's what happens. Fund managers don't lose anything. Think about this. You are investing your money and they're playing with your money. And whether or not they win, they still get paid. When the market crashed in 2008 and I saw $100,000 leave my 401k in 48 hours, 48 hours, and I contacted my fund manager and her answer to me was, yeah, the market just crashed. And there's nothing we can do to recoup your money. And oh, by the way, this does not preclude us from collecting the fees associated with the management of your account. So you mean to tell me you just lost $100,000 of my life savings and you're still going to charge me fees for losing my money? Can you see the fist balled up?
Wow.
I said, you have to be kidding me. That is not where I want to go put my money. That's not what, and listen, I'm not saying that the stock market is bad. I make the correlation to Las Vegas, right? Las Vegas isn't bad, right? People go to Vegas and make money all the time. Just don't go to Vegas with your rent money and expect to win. The house always wins.
Oh my gosh. Look, let me put my phone on mute. I'm sorry, I'm screaming over here. Say that last sentence you said again. The house?
The house always wins. So Las Vegas isn't bad. Las Vegas is even legal. Right? You can go to Las Vegas, $100, $200, money that you can afford to lose, and come out of there and it's no skin off your back, right? The problem is, if you correlate the market to Las Vegas, the problem is people aren't in the market with money they can afford to lose. They're in the market with their life savings. They're in the market with money they expect to be there at an increased rate when they're ready to retire, right? Ask the people that are greeters in Walmart whether they were ready to retire. I saw a 65-year-old woman serving French fries at a Chick-fil-A. 65, when she should be retired at home playing with her grandkids. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. And I can't, in good conscience, tell anyone to invest life savings in a vehicle that has been known to rob you of your wealth since its existence. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Wow. Mr. Austin, I have a question really quick. I was told a few months back, and I definitely took this counsel serious, and I abided by it. It said that they wouldn't, and this is just what they said, we're not going to go into this, but it sounds similar. They said they wouldn't put anything in the bank that they were not willing to lose because of some of the policies that were changing, especially like in a safe deposit account or a deposit account, because of some of the policies that were changing. And so I heeded that. It sounds like you're saying the same thing for your 401ks and the traditional ways that people have done things. You wouldn't put anything in it that you are not willing to lose if you compare the market to Las Vegas. Because when you go to Vegas, if you're going to gamble, if you decide to do that for fun, you shouldn't leave mad if you lose what you played, because I hope it ain't your bill money or your life savings or something you needed, because there's no guarantee there. Exactly. It's a gamble.
It's a gamble. You're absolutely right. And
wow.
I'm completely in agreement with you with respect to, especially because of the laws that are on the books now on the whole bail-in thing, when you've got your money in the bank account, you become a creditor to the bank, and if the bank insolvent, if the bank should become insolvent, it is not politically palatable for the government to bail out the bank anymore. So instead, they're just going to take your money and bail themselves out.
Right.
And that's on the book.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not a shooting man or anything like that, but I would bust caps. I would bust caps. I'm sorry. that's not gonna work for me. That's not gonna work for me. And so, the counsel that I give the folks that come talk to me, who, by the way, aren't necessarily those individuals that are savvy from an investment perspective. They are very risk averse when it comes to handling their money. They don't necessarily have the financial education or wherewithal to understand all the complex scenarios about what to do with money. They just want to know that their money is going to be safe. They just want to know that their money is going in a vehicle that will protect them. They just want to know that there's little to no risk of them losing their principal, long term. And so I can't in good conscience counsel people to take their principle, which is what most people, say, that's their principle, right? Because most people haven't gotten to a place where their investments have made interest and dividends where they can play with that, right? They haven't gotten to that point yet. They're still dealing with, I'm saving $100 a month, right? Those people can't afford to lose $100 a month if something happens in this. Do you know, listen, Wall Street places values on a company based on a couple of things, right? They're looking at the current revenues of the organization, the financial strength of the organization. They're looking at the assets and liabilities on the book. They're looking at the strength of the management that runs the organization. Let's take, Bill Gates and Microsoft, right? Tremendous track record, substantial market penetration. You can't go to any company or any office where there isn't some sort of Microsoft Office application in place, right? But let Bill Gates commit a crime. What do you think is going to happen to the stock? Right? So anyone holding Microsoft all of a sudden lost, right? Wow. And so I personally can't put my mortgage money, right? I can't put my car note money. I can't put my future kids' college money, right? I can't put my long-term savings and retirement money in an environment where the value of what I could potentially make is dependent upon somebody else doing the right thing. I can't do it. I can't do it. I won't do it.
Alan Austin told me, you guys, he said, even short-term retirement planning, some of us are older. You guys see what's going on up here, right? You see what's going on, the white stuff, right? Even older guys like me with short-term retirement strategies, gold still outpaces everything. I think, Mr. Austin, you said the stock market in the last 10, 15 years was like 12, 13%.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. So if you go from 2000 to 2000 and December 2016, I think the average return adjusted for inflation was approximately 2.5, and not even wait, no. You said 2, like 1, 2? The average return, 2.5%. I mean, think over the last 15 years, we had two major crashes. You had the tech bubble that wiped out everything. You had the housing market that wiped out everything. You had the crash that happened at the end of the year that pretty much wiped out stuff. You had what happened at the beginning of this year with the market tanking significantly, right? So the average return as of December of 2015 with the natural ebb and flow with the crashes was approximately 2.5%. Now, if you account for inflation, even at a rate of 3% a year, you multiply that by 15 years, that's 45%. So you're negative 42, just keeping
So Mr. Austin, even with the little bit of increase of 2%, you're still very down. You're still lost, maybe.
Wait, so after the negative 42, you got to pay capital gains on which you got to pay the capital gains tax on that because it's what they call an unrealized gain. So if you want to take that out, you got to pay capital gains on it. And if it happens to be in a 401k, then there's an early withdrawal penalty, and then there's the tax, the federal and state tax associated with it. So you're scraping. You're below negative. If there's a number below -0, then there's.
So everybody gets their money except for you. So everybody basically gets their money except for the person who money that they're gambling. You're the only one on the short end of the stick.
Absolutely. Look, 60 Minutes did an expose on.
Horrible.
60 Minutes did an expose on 401ks, and I highly encourage anyone to go out and do a YouTube search on 60 Minutes 401k. And I believe Mike Wallace mentioned in that expose that over the life of an average person's employment career, about 30 to 40% of your life savings will be taken in fees. Not inflation, not tax, in fees.
Oh my gosh. Now, Mr. Austin, one of my team members sent me a quick text, and I understand their concern for you. They said, make sure you give a disclaimer, but you haven't given any tax advice. You're just quoting stats, right?
These are stats. These are stats, and you're right. That's an excellent point. And I'm very careful when I come on calls like this because I want to make sure that we maintain the integrity of what we do with Karatbars. Obviously, Karatbars nor any one of the Karatbars affiliates is giving anyone tax advice or providing you with financial advice. The information that I share with you has been published by very reputable organizations that you can do the research and search on your own. I'm giving you numbers that are actually out there, published by CNN Money, Forbes, Yahoo Finance, all that. I encourage all of you to do your own research and encourage all of you to talk to your own financial and tax professional. But as for me and my house, I'm sticking with gold.
All right, last thing, Mr. Austin, and I'm not going to pull on you too much here. Last thing, during that same period that the financial sector was giving us 2.4% return, what was gold doing?
About 465% for the 15 years.